Yes. Wait,
Okay. I have it. I
okay.
have it off
We
to
are
the
recording.
side. Yeah.
Okay. Let me also open your. Where did this go?
I just spoke with a woman that wants to help me with my company, and she's a 6'2" seer. She's a projector, I think.
Oh, wow. So you asked her.
Yeah,
Amazing.
I asked her, and one of her friends knew what human design was, so she went and did her chart, and she's all excited about it. So she might be somebody for you to go, to come to you, Kayla.
Oh,
Um,
that would be amazing. I
but you know
would
what?
absolutely love that.
It's funny because I liked her so much. We ended up going 90 minutes when we went. We had an hour to, talk
Mhm.
to each other. And I just said, I bet you're the same human design I am, but she's a different version, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. So the thing with the profiles, and it's interesting because I think the profiles kind of, I know you had said that you did a lot of work with other personality profiles.
Hmm.
And so the profile in human design, I feel like is kind of the thing that meets those where they are. Um,
Okay.
and it's actually based on not even the specifics of the chart, but the way that the chart is. So like so we could start right there just so you have an idea of what all of this means. If you look at the chart that I sent to you,
Hmm.
um, so human design is a combination of a lot of different ancient concepts. So we've got astrology, we've got the Kabbalah, we have I Ching in there, and then quantum physics. So it's the concept of at the moment that you were born, there were neutrinos moving through you and through the air in a very specific pattern. And that is where we get the chart for human design. Um,
Now,
so when we look at this chart, the things that are along the side there are actually the planets. So this is the astrology part of it. So the one on the left, the red, is considered your subconscious mind. So the things that you came here with, but may not be super like like available for you to see. And then the things on the right side, the black ones, are your conscious mind. So those are the things that are very likely to be part of your personality.
okay.
So when we talk about the profile, so on all of these, each one of these is a different gate. And the gates correspond to I believe it's 56 gates of I Ching. So every one of the gates that comes up is based on a very specific thing. So the number next to the gate, so if you look at like your top left hand corner, it says 11.2. So
Okay.
the 11 is, I actually have a little thing here that has my gates. So gate 11 is actually the conceptualist. So it's that you are a vessel for ideas. So that's kind of your subconscious space. You are a vessel for concepts, and you are someone who is able to share them with the right person. So that then shows up in the two line. The two line is about care for others, taking care, being involved with other people, the leader, the caretaker, that kind of feel. So that too is actually the way that you show up with your personality rather than the actual personality trait. So the profile is kind of it's almost like a more ethereal, like it's a little less like, in like Myers-Briggs, you have an INFJ. That's like a set. These are the things that describe you. Whereas in human design, your profile is kind of more a way to be approached, which is why your profile as the role model, it's not necessarily about your personality. It's about the way that you show up with your personality. So you could very easily have the same profile as someone who has a completely different chart. And it's just going to be a matter of they are going to show up in this same way as someone who leads others, as someone who is a role model for the people, but they are going to be a role model for a different set of people than you are.
Okay.
Okay. So I would love to jump in. Are you feeling ready to kind of jump in and
Yeah. I feel like you're going to take me to another level of understanding myself that, isn't just scratching the surface. I don't know if that's true, but that's what it feels like. Because I didn't even know what these black things meant.
Okay, cool. Because I feel so the thing with human design is there is so much to learn. And like the
Okay.
reason that I was very open with you about the fact that I've never done a human design reading before. I've been using this in my sessions for a few months now, and I've kind of fallen down the rabbit hole of human design, and I'm working with a coach myself. But it's just, it makes so much sense. It's this
Well,
kind of
and
like,
if you've fallen down a rabbit hole, you must love it,
right. Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly where like everything that I discover, I'm like fascinated. I'm like, wow. So with that, I'm hoping that we can get through a good amount today, but there is so much to do.
Okay.
So I think it's really going to be a matter of like, let's just get through the basics. And then if you're feeling like you want to do more, we can figure out what that looks like.
Yeah, that when you were talking about those things floating through the air, I forget what you just called them. I've
Retreat.
been reading up a lot of it. So for me, I just want to know, what is it that I need to know that I might not know about myself, and what is it that is validating what I do know about myself? Because I'm kind of a pragmatic person that way. Like I want to know how I can leverage this to be the best me.
Amazing. Yeah, that was kind of the feel that I got from your messages. So that's kind of, I feel like that makes a lot of sense, especially as a manifesting generator. You are here to do all the things. So let's get started.
Okay.
We will begin talking about your type. So in human design, there are 5 different types, and the types it's based upon the different centers in the chart and how they correspond to each other. So as a manifesting generator, essentially what that means is that you are a generator. Generators have a defined sacral center. So if you look at the chart and you see that pink square in the bottom there, that is what signifies your status as a generator. This applies to you as well, Alyssa, as a manifesting generator. So generators make up about 70% of the population. And the thing that sacral center gives you, that defined sacral, is a consistent force of energy. You do not get tired when you are doing something that is your right work.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, amazing. So, and that's the great thing about generators is that so within that space as well, you have almost a connection with the universe, that when something feels, whenever you come up to a thing, you have a feeling of, oh yeah, I want to do that, or nah, not for me. And you get that from your defined sacral center. So it's very easy if you live in a space of allowing to come to you, you will be able to make those decisions in the moment. You'll be able to move through them, and you'll be able to do what you are meant to do and continue to be in a space of growth. So that sacral compass is kind of the first thing that I really like to work on when I'm working with generators, because a lot of people are not listening to their inner sacral compass. So is that something that you feel like you have a pretty good handle on, or?
It's interesting when I'm doing my work, I feel like I'm in some kind of zone, and it feels like it is, so like I just feel on, and I feel very certain about what I'm saying or doing. But like right now, this woman that I told you about, that's a 6-2 seer, she's kind of talking me around to working with her, and I actually really want to. So, like things that show up, I respond to them, but sometimes I've responded and it hasn't worked out well, which makes me doubt myself. Like to me, to spend money on someone right now is not easy for me. So I don't know if my response is the one to trust, or if it's my fear that I'm supposed to respond to. Like I'm just giving that as an example because, but on a really primal level, I do feel like my work is even one of my kids said, I wish I had your work ethic. And I think really what she's talking about is the generator in me.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was just because I'm passionate about what I'm doing, but maybe it's more than that. I don't know.
So I can tell you, and this is pulling from another client of mine. I have a manifesting generator client who is currently dealing with being tired all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And she is working a job that she cannot stand.
Right. I'm not surprised by that.
And so that's the thing with having that sacral center is if you are listening to that pull of, yeah, this is what I want. If you're doing your right work, then you can just keep going and you keep going and you keep going. You don't get tired and you sleep like a log at night and you wake up in the morning and you do it again. So yeah, it's 100%. I think
I would say most of my life has been that way. It's harder for me to sleep right now. And I think it's just from hormonal stuff or whatever. But I've always had I need less sleep. And I wake usually with a bang, like boom, I'm off and running. So I really get that.
Great. Yeah, that sounds exactly spot on. So the generator part of it, that is there's 70% of the population are generators. You are the doers. You are the ones who are accomplishing all of the things in the world. The manifester part of it. So the 5 different types are generators, manifesting generators, manifestors, projectors, and reflectors. Projectors and reflectors are kind of projectors, reflectors, and manifestors all do not have a defined sacral center. So they make up that other 30%. I am a projector. They are people who cannot move as quickly, who cannot do as much and have as much energy as the generators do.
And it's like you guys are 11%. Is that the one that's 11%? And then the projectors, yeah. I mean, the reflectors are 1% or something?
Yeah, so reflectors are 1%. Reflectors, actually, I have yet to meet a reflector. If you look at the chart here, all of the centers that are here, when all of them are white, meaning all of them are open and able to absorb energy, that is a reflector. So it's someone who has very little reliable energy on their own. Projectors are 20% of the population, and we are the guides. It's a lot of like trusting other humans to be able to accomplish things on their own with guidance.
You know what? That's what this woman is. And I kind of intuitively feel like she's a really good person to support me, but I feel like I've trusted people like her in the past and it didn't happen. But maybe I'm actually sensing it with her because she just feels like I don't know. I just feel like she has the knowing about how to help me help myself.
Yeah.
And so it's just interesting that came up because I didn't even know she was going to come back with what she was. So
that's amazing. Yeah, I can definitely say, especially in that situation, your emotional authority is probably coming up and your open spleen center. So we'll circle back to that.
Okay.
Continue this part of the conversation.
Yeah. And I appreciate that because my work, it feels like it's on the verge of going one way or the other. So it's super, super important for me to have as much help as I can on those decisions,
Yeah, absolutely. So moving into the manifesting part of your manifesting generator. So the thing that makes you a manifesting generator is that you have a motor to your throat. And essentially what that means is that your throat center is directly connected by a channel to at least one of your motor centers. And these are the emotional center, the sacral center, and I believe the self center is also considered a motor center. These are the centers that really kind of fuel humanity in general, the ones that push things to happen. So with that direct connection from your throat, you are able to speak things into existence. You are able to be the initiator. You're able to create things with your voice. So when you speak something, it comes true. Is this something that you've 100%, noticed?
100% agree with this. And it feels like, especially when I'm aligned with my work, I feel like I'm innovating something that is like out front. I don't know how else to say it than that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's funny. I have the page that's open. So you only have one channel defined. I mean, one gate defined in your throat center, and it is directly connected to your emotional center. And that is the channel gate 12. So
What
that's
is it?
literally,
What does that mean? Like, what does that gate mean?
so that gate is to know that your voice is an expression of transformation and a vehicle for divine insight.
Okay.
Literally to know that when you speak, you are speaking directly from your emotions, from your sacral center. You're connected through yourself, your sacral, and your emotional centers. So it is very, very true, everything that you say, and it is directly connected to your connection to the universe.
That feels very validating. It really does. And it gives me a sense of, yeah, I'm in the right place.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah. So being a manifesting generator puts you in a position where being a leader comes very naturally to you. The hardest thing about being a manifesting generator, I think, comes down to the waiting. Because so each different type has a different strategy. So if you look over on the side of the chart here, your strategy is listed here as respond. I like to add on to, for a manifesting generator, respond and inform. So
say that again. Respond and what?
Inform.
Okay.
So for all generators, the way that decisions are made, the way that you come to anything is like we talked about, letting it come to you, deciding, listening to your sacral center, and then moving forward. So
sometimes that has seemed so clear to me. Like
yeah.
I remember writing down a vision of wanting to work with parents, teachers, administrators, and students all at the same time. And then like I just went somewhere and it showed up. Somebody said, I have a $300,000 grant. If you want to write it, I'll sign it. You know, it was like, how I didn't even set any goals or anything. It just boom. So I get what you're saying. I don't think I always know how long to wait. You know, like I'm not a person that tries to go make things happen until something in me moves to go make something happen.
That's
but
amazing.
does that make sense? I mean, like I know when I try to make something happen, it just doesn't do well.
You are so very intuitive into yourself, and it is so cool to see. It's just great. Because that is literally so when you are living in your design, we'll touch a second on the themes, because the satisfaction and then frustration versus anger, which is right below, these are kind of the things that give you the modus to understand whether you are living in your design or whether you are kind of pulling away from design. So when you are feeling satisfied, when you are feeling grateful, when you are feeling like you have what you need in life, that is when you are living in your design. And it sounds like you do a lot of allowing your body to tell you when it's time to do things and then responding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because so that is your design. And when you are doing exactly that, you will continue to stay in that satisfied state.
Okay. That feels good because it almost goes against public logic sometimes.
Yes. Yes. So a big thing that has been conditioned into all of us is that we are all supposed to be manifestors. Manifestors don't have a defined sacral center, but they do have a defined throat center. They have a motor to their throat, the way that a manifesting generator does. So they are able to act alone. They are able to walk into a room, say, I think all of you should stand in blank formation, and everybody does it because you listen to a manifestor. That's how it works. They are able to completely initiate whatever it is that they want and act on their own. And this is only 8% of the population, manifestors.
So tell me what point? Can you tell me what you just said about 8%? What is that?
So manifestors make up 8% of the population.
It's so funny because in one of my other models, it's only 8%. The primary color in one of my models is that, and it's a systems thinker who cares about innovating just to get things to work. Like there's like a clear, defined outcome, and we can see the system that's needed. So I don't know if it's the same thing you're talking about, but it's
very similar. Yeah. Because so the thing with a manifestor is they're able to rally the people. Manifestors that we know, famous manifestors, are often they can be tyrannical leaders. Hitler was a manifester. Donald Trump is a manifester. There are a lot of people who find themselves in intense places of power because they don't need to deal with the grounding aspect of having that defined sacral center. So they can just kind of come up, see how everything is supposed to work, and then tell other people what to do.
So that's just for a pure manifester, or is that the same for a manifesting generator?
So the thing with a manifesting generator is it brings the two things together. You have the ability to help others to see the way that things could be, but you're grounded by your sacral center. So you have somewhere to follow. You have a connection to the universe. You are not initiating. You're not creating things out of nowhere. You're listening. You are in response.
So somebody like Trump would be a person that maybe doesn't have that component to it?
Right. Yes.
Thank God. I don't want to be in his camp. I want to be in Barack Obama's camp, which is one of those ones that I was so excited about. I talked about that. And Alfred Adler. What does time bender mean? Is that a special type of manifestation?
So the type of chart that I like to use, this is by a certain woman named Karen Curry Parker, who created quantum human design. And essentially she's also a manifesting generator who loves to do 1,000 different things all at once. And she wanted to, so the way that human design was created it was literally this man, his name was Ra. He, in 1987, he had decided he wanted to unplug, didn't want to be involved with anybody else. He had gotten a cabin in the woods. It was just him and his dog. And he shows up at his cabin and there was a light on in the cabin and he had not left any lights on. He walked into the cabin and his spirit guides were all there and told him he had to start writing.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it was a total divine download. He then wrote for 8 days and 8 nights, didn't stop, and created this system that was originally meant to help parents parent their children so that they would be able to grow into their individual selves rather than trying to condition them to be.
You know what's so funny about that? I just have to tell you, my mission statement is to create a world where all people love their lives, not the life that the parents are trying to condition them into, not the life that the world says you have to be. So isn't that funny?
Yes, that is.
And I love that he got that big download. That's what happened in Course in Miracles. It was an atheist woman who, like, it just was channeled to her.
Yeah, he was a skeptic.
I think that's amazing when that happens.
So so this literally happened in the 80s. So this is new information. And so with that coming in, it was originally for parents and children. And the idea behind it was, these are the things that are wrong. You can fix them. Like you can fix.
So Kayla, is it possible that same energy is, because I learned the psychology that I use and I applied it in parenting in the mid 80s. Is it possible that we were all being called, that those of us that were called all at the same time? I mean, it's just so bizarre to me that you're saying it came in through a parenting intent.
Yeah.
You know?
Hell yeah. I 100%, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Wow. That's just mind blowing.
Yeah. Actually a huge part of, so one of the things that shows up in human design in general is that projectors didn't come into being until the mid 1800s, like the late 1800s. And I was talking to my mother about this and she realized that was also when the Industrial Revolution started. And essentially, I believe what happened at that point is that humans started to become people who could do things for themselves rather than peons, rather than peasants, rather than this collective force that needed to be led by a manifester.
We say in our courses that the systems were set up for mindless factory workers until we started to evolve beyond that.
So, and
you're speaking my language, Kayla.
Yes. And so projectors are here as guides rather than as intense, dictatorial leaders. So now projectors make up 20% of the population.
Okay.
So Obama is a projector. So when
Okay.
you look at his leadership style versus a manifester like Trump's leadership style, that's kind of what we're getting at. And I think that the concept that projectors came in like so recently, this is the direction we are moving, and we're moving toward this space of humans being individual, understood and utilized for what we are here to do.
That makes sense to me. And I want to ask you about Barack Obama, because
Yeah.
when I told you that I read the book Becoming, and I kept thinking the whole time, this feels like me. He's a different kind of 6'2" than me. Is that like, how did it feel so familiar to me? Since
So
he's a projector and I'm not.
100%. I think one thing that I've found in human design is that whenever I have any similarity with another person, I feel that kinship. There is a serious kinship there, because it's not about like, I have this personality trait. It's about the way that your energy shows up. So when
that's how I felt with this woman yesterday. I didn't know at the time that she was a projector, not the same kind, because I didn't even know there were two different kinds of 6'2s or multiple kinds or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was surprised when I saw hers was a projector, because I thought, well, does that make any difference? Because our energy was so similar.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It was so interesting.
So the next, like, the thing that I would want to go over after we were finished going through all of the basics here is your defined and undefined centers, because one of the things that I've found is that a lot of times it's those defined and undefined centers that create more of who a person is and the way they show up, rather than the label of, projector, manifesting generator, whatever it is. Which is why I do like to kind of the conversation, they all have to be involved.
Okay. Take me wherever you want.
Okay. Okay. So, but the reason it says time bender. So that was what I was getting at before. The woman who creates these, she decided to kind of to revamp the verbiage of human design a bit, so that the words used are more high vibrational, so that the system can be more focused on bettering the self rather than on finding the problems and figuring out how to fix them. So when Ra originally downloaded it, that was kind of where it was coming from. So she actually worked with him and has, kind of created her own branch of human design. So it's all the same stuff, but she offers different words. And so if the word time bender feels cool to you, you can utilize the word time bender.
It's funny because my grandkids are always watching these cartoon anime things that have time benders and all that. I'm like, wow, they're going to like that. I don't really know how it applies. Maybe it's.
So the main thing about a manifesting generator, so because you have that motor to your throat and you have that sacral center, you have the ability to do a lot of different things at once.
Okay.
So the concept of being a time bender, we kind of call manifesting generators the superheroes of the human design world. So while manifesting generators in general take up 70% of the population, manifesting generators alone are only 33%. So it's the other 37% that are just generators. So the manifesting generators, you guys, if there has ever been a point in your life where someone told you were doing too many things, that is not a thing you have to listen to. You are built.
It's good to know. My dad's favorite saying when I was a kid was, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I think I've always said I'm an East Coast soul in a Midwest town because I'm fast, and I like moving fast. And sometimes I have been told that you're too much or you're doing too.
That's why I like the East Coast so much, I think,
like to be,
Judy.
Yeah. I remember going into a meeting with Maxine Clark and somebody said, whatever you do, don't talk slow. I go, are you kidding me? I get to talk fast. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So that is literally how you're designed. There doesn't need to be any shame around doing 1,000 things at once.
Okay.
And the other thing about that, and this is something that has really resonated with a lot of the man-gens that I've talked to, is that it is literally part of your creative process to skip steps. Realize you have skipped a step and have to go back and do it again.
So we do have to go back and do it again if we skip them?
If you need to, you don't necessarily have to. Sometimes you skip the steps and it's not a problem at all. But sometimes you skip the steps and you actually skipped a crucial step and you have to go back.
Okay.
But it's not something that you need to feel any shame about. That is literally your design. That is
Okay.
the way that you do things. Is that something that resonates with you?
I think so, because I still don't have the results I always want. So I imagine there are steps I skipped because I got so focused over here. I don't know. I mean, it's just good to know I don't have to have shame about it, you know.
Yeah.
It's a little hyperactive in a way, you know.
But it's how you learn. It's one of the big ways that you learn is by making, like, skipping too many steps. My sister's a manifesting generator, and I'll watch her do things like try to get too many things in a bag kind of thing and then drop everything. Like, that's
Okay.
you know,
Okay.
the moment of okay, all of these things didn't actually work together.
Yeah.
And now I have to recalibrate.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So let's see. So we discussed your strategy. So, okay. So strategy, your respond is that answer to your defined sacral center, and then inform. So the way that having a motor to your throat works is that oftentimes you might act without telling someone. And if you do that, sometimes it can come back to bite you. So when making a decision, when deciding on something, approaching it, being in that space to respond to it, knowing what's happening, and then telling the people is an important part for you. Is that something that resonates?
Yeah, I think so. I think that I'm not sure if you're saying don't skip that step because it can come back to bite you. I do feel like there's times where I don't speak up. Like I was, Alyssa knows this, a partner of mine that I was going to have in a show host, and because I was invited to do a show, I changed my mind. I didn't really want her to partner with me, and I felt guilty about it. I felt like I have no right to change my mind, and I didn't tell her for a long time that I had changed my mind, and it really didn't feel good to me that I did that, you know. But if that's saying that's an important thing. Like, it's funny because one of my core values in my own blueprint is over communicating. But when it comes to something really personal to myself, sometimes I hold back. So I don't know how this fits, if it even fits, but does it fit?
That actually brings us to your your creative authority, your emotional authority. So if you look at the chart in the bottom right-hand corner, the triangle all the way to the right, that's your emotional solar plexus center. That is where all of your emotions live.
That's where the 36 and the 22 and all that are?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and that is the fact that that is colored in, the fact that it is brown and not white, means that you have a defined emotional center. And that is also your authority. So what that means is that when it comes to making decisions, when it comes to dealing with things that are coming to you and decisions that you have to make within yourself, you need to make sure that your emotional center is balanced before you can make a decision.
You know what's funny about you saying that? When I was invited to do this television show, I was not emotionally balanced. I was unsure. I was scared. I was going to try to bring in all these people that are name recognized. And one of my friends said to me, "Why are you doing that? You are the program." And I was like, "What?" And he goes, I go, "This person doesn't even know my work." And he goes, I said, "He's only heard me speak once." And he goes, "I was sold on you the minute I heard you speak." And, but it was still a new idea to go forward as though I'm owning the show. And he made the comment, "You should have a co-host that can help you, you know, kind of shine." Well, fear, not from, like, I didn't sit long enough with, what do I really want? I was still kind of freaked out that I was going to go forward on my own authority. Like, does this all make sense what I'm saying? So I think the respond function, I needed to respond. I needed more time before I jumped into inviting somebody to host with me. And I can see how that whole thing is an example of where I don't know, how do you get your emotional center to be balanced if you can feel it's not, you know? I mean, I kept praying about it. I kept doing certain things that showed me flow, and then I felt satisfaction. But there were also places along the way where it wasn't so much. So,
Yeah. I mean, I feel like with a big decision like that, because I also just looked, so your emotional center, your emotional authority is, you have a tribal wave. So there are a few different kinds of waves within the emotional center. And yours is tribal, which literally means that the decisions that you make affect everyone. They affect the whole community. Your decisions carry a lot of weight. And when you make, especially a big decision, if you make that decision in a very heightened or in a very low emotional place, the results can be kind of catastrophic. It can kind of blow up.
I think that's what I'm feeling about even the show, because it's another level of being in the world. And I don't really want to be obliging other people because I feel the responsibility of it. Yeah. Which is weird, because there's a part of me going, oh, that's just egotistical. You just want to be and I know that's not true. I don't want to be the center stage just to be the center stage. I want to make a difference. So it feels like a very weighty thing, to do it. So I tribal, I feel like I am part of this tribe. Mm-hmm. I have a vision from my childhood where I'm on a stage and I'm holding hands with people in a big long row, and I'm feeling their shoulders, and there's some kind of energy going through the entire line. And in front of us, there's like masses of people. And I know that we're doing something together to help them, but that's all it is. It's just super powerful in my consciousness.
Yes.
It kind of feels like this tribal thing.
100%, 100%. And the way that you had told me that you felt like you were connected in a kind of ancient way to your decision-making process, I think that's where that's coming from. You have a very intense connection to your people, and you are creating a movement.
Yeah, and I kind of feel a little bit like Matt Kahn, if you've ever studied him, he says we're like the commandos on the front line of the love revolution, but we don't feel all that secure about it, Yeah.
Oh, totally.
Have you ever heard him talk before?
I haven't, but that's so spot on.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, and your throat center, your motor to your throat center is directly connected to your emotional center. So when you speak, you are speaking directly from this place of tribal instinct, of tribal understanding.
Okay.
So you can trust your voice to speak what is actually happening inside of you, and you are connected also to it's also connected to your sacral center. So the way that I would usually coach an emotional center who also has a defined sacral, that your defined sacral center is going to be the defining factor. That feeling, that pull that you feel of yes or no when something comes to you, that is your be all end all. But before you can use that part of you, you need to get that emotional space into balance. And it can mean something different for everybody. For me, it's usually meditating. It's normally even doing something like journaling a little bit to just kind of get the things out until I no longer feel like I am in a high or a low.
I did that when I was ready to quit the network for this TV show. And my sister said, I think you owe it to yourself to go out and sit at Creve Coeur Park and journal about what's going on, because you're the bravest person I know. You're brave if you say yes to this, and you're brave if you say no. And it just gave me the space. And I went out and I wrote all these what if, what's the worst that could happen? And all these things came out, and it was so weird, because the worst thing that could happen, one of them was that I could succeed. I didn't even know that was in me, So I understand what you're saying, that brought me into balance. And then when I put my stake in the ground, it was really in the ground, and I could just feel flow happening from it. So I understand that. I've just had so many times where I thought around certain things like my business that I knew what to do and I did it. And sometimes it didn't work. And I think it's made me a little bit unsure of myself around that aspect, not my work itself, but how to make my business successful.
Yeah.
I have zero doubt about my work itself. But that whole part about how do I make it in the world so that I can have the greatest impact, that part is still not completely clear to me.
I think that trusting yourself and trusting that your connection to the universe is bringing you where you need to go is important. Because
Maybe remember. Yeah. Okay.
just because a specific situation felt like it didn't work out doesn't mean that it didn't bring you to a place where you are now learning from, or you are now moving to, or you are now meeting the right person who's going to, and blank, 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 blank.
Okay. Good to know. Okay.
Yeah. Because I think that a lot of times we can get very caught in the space of what if, what if, what if. And actually, I'm going to touch on this for a second. In your chart here, so the triangle all the way to the left, the one that is white on your chart,
Yep.
that's your spleen center. Your spleen center is where survival instinct lives, is where your connection to your senses live, the here and now, and that's where your fears live. And your center is open, which means, so the difference between open and defined, or defined and undefined centers, when you have a defined center, so all of the colored centers, you create reliable energy from that center. So you can, for instance, your sacral center, the pink square, you can rely on your connection to the universe and know that you will feel when something is right. You'll feel it in your gut.
Okay.
Whereas open centers do two things. They absorb energy from other people, and they reflect that energy back to those people. So a lot of times what happens with an open center is that you have absorbed energy from others. And especially if you absorb that energy at a time when you were very vulnerable, it might become part of your conditioning.
Yeah. It's funny that you're saying that, because I recently did a healing session with someone over my high blood pressure, and I had read from Louise Hayes that that's often tied to a trauma that's unresolved.
Yeah.
And she said she took me back to when it first started, that I would have any anxiety, and it was a time where my grandmother lived with us, and she was becoming very high dementia. And my mother was terrified of her dying. She was terrified of her having to put her in a home. My grandmother was afraid of what was happening to her. And I was absorbing all of that. And none of that was even in my consciousness until this healer brought that memory forward. Isn't that? So I do believe I even felt like I absorbed my parents' fears, even though they presented very certain and very confident. I could feel their fears. But what do I do about this openness to that? Like, how do I help myself? Because I don't want anything impeding my mission, And
the thing with your open centers, and I actually want to mention your heart center is also open. So the little tiny triangle that's between on the right side, that's your will and motivation center. That one, we call it the heart center as well. That one is actually connected to your heart organ. So if you were dealing with high blood pressure and you discovered that it had something to do with this conditioning from your family, it was very likely something that was living in your heart will center.
That makes so much sense to me. I mean, I even think my mom died at 58 from a heart attack because she probably had an open heart center that was a mess. But I mean, is there any practical information that would help me to strengthen or not get caught up in all that?
So the way that I recently had a discussion about open centers in general, and I like to think of them, because it's not like an open center is a bad thing. It's more of an opportunity for feeling what happens through others and being empathic. That's where empathy comes from, is being able to feel what's happening with others. But an open center is kind of like a screen door. So energy flows through the open center. So if you are in a position where you're thinking to yourself, I'm supposed to be a certain way. For instance, I'm supposed to be afraid of insert blank here. Then it's kind of like being a screen door, and the screen door standing up as the wind is flowing through it, and the screen door saying, I'm the wind. But the screen door is not the wind. The screen door will never be the wind. It is a screen. The wind flows through.
So I think I understand what you're saying. I think, like, I am empathetic, and I don't mind that, except for it's practically crushed me. I really believe it was very hard for me as a child.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's like you're saying the emotions can flow through you and not get stuck in you, and it's not a bad thing because then you know what's really going on. Sometimes when people don't admit what's going on, you feel insane because
Yes.
you know something's going on, but they don't say it's going on.
Yes.
So you're saying that's not bad. It's just I need to know I'm not the emotions that I'm picking up on, and I'm not the emotions that my mind is even maybe producing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
It's about learning how to take a step back and to kind of be able to feel when something is yours and when something is not yours.
Okay.
So I have another client who also is a manifesting generator with an open spleen center. And one thing that she has struggled with before is that she can very actively feel the pain of others. And sometimes it will kind of jump into her and it will feel like her own pain. And she feels kind of taken over by it in an intense, almost like manic depressive kind of like kind of thing.
I think when I was working with that healer, what it felt like to me was that darkness descended into my home. That's how I don't feel like anything jumped into me, but it was, and I completely thought it was because I started Catholic school that year and it was like the Gestapo, which probably didn't help. But she said no, the darkness and the fear was all about what was going on in your home. And so I know that I feel things like that. It never occurred to me that it was around that until she brought that to, it just makes sense that it was that. But I think what I think is giving me the greatest comfort that you've said so far is that I have a very well-defined relationship with the universe and with the tribe of all humanity.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm getting so emotional. I don't know.
It's an amazing thing.
I can rely on that. I can rely on that. And the emotional stuff is not, it doesn't have to be such a distraction. I can just remember that.
Yeah, and I think to remember that with the emotional authority, you are designed to feel the entire gamut of human emotion.
Okay.
That it is not something to be shameful of to feel emotion. You're here to feel that so that you understand the people. And
well, it's funny that you're saying that because I told Alyssa that recently. I feel like where my role model is heading, I'm using your terminology, is to define that strength does not always look powerful. Like it can be tears, it can be fear, it can be just expressing all the range. Because in my family, that wasn't really done.
Yeah.
My parents wouldn't cry. My dad even bragged, I didn't even cry when your mother died, like that was something good. And so it was very confusing for a long time. I would never cry like I'm doing with you right now.
Yeah.
So I do feel like it's part of the salvation of the humanity to be human.
Yeah.
And to be able to be authentic about all the aspects. And
absolutely.
I'm a little bit scared about being that role model because it's pushing up against, again, letting go of the old for the new.
Yeah. And I think a big part of what you're dealing with too is that you are that voice. You are the voice of the tribe, but you're also feeling the pain of the tribe.
I do. That's why, if anything makes me feel discouraged, it's that I can't help more people more quickly because I feel the suffering, and I know it's possible to overcome it, and it's hard to get it out there, know.
I want to share one more thing with you. I just looked. So one of the things that we would do if we continued working together, I have this sheet that I got from Karen Curry Parker called the Big Why worksheet. And essentially, if you were to look at the numbers of the things along the side, the design and personality, they correspond with the little red circles inside the chart. So of those are the gates that are active in your chart, and your gates, the little red circles, are the things that make up the specifics of who you are and all of the things that you deal with. And as I can say with working with my coach, it's all in there. Every time she brings something up, I'm like, oh yeah, that's real. And so we would work on how to, like, the high vibration and low vibration of each of those gates and how we can kind of understand where those live and how we can choose the high vibrational. So the first thing that we write in this, your big why worksheet.
Okay.
The first sentence is, my life purpose is to blank and blank. And that is your sun. So the top two squares, and your top two gates are, like I had said before, the conceptualist and surrender. So the core of your life purpose is to be someone who conceptualizes, who helps others to see all of the ideas, and then surrender to that concept.
That's exactly that. You couldn't have described my work more clearly. It's a calling to be the next evolution,
Yeah.
and to surrender into it, and to let go of all the clinging to the past models of power over, power under.
Yeah.
So I never really thought of it as me calling them to surrender, but it certainly is. Does it mean that I'm called to surrender, or that I'm helping others come to surrender?
I think it can mean both things. The way that it's put in this verbiage is the grace to know that you are fully supported by the universal flow of abundance, and to pursue your passion and your unique contribution to the world no matter what. To trust that you will be given what you need when you need it in order to make your unique contribution to the world. So I think it's literally exactly what you were saying, where you feel that intense connection to the universe. That is part of your life's purpose, is to let your connection to the universe kind of to allow others to trust your connection.
And all that feels so true. It's really funny though, because I do feel like I've always been provided, even when I was, but I jokingly say, God waits until I have blisters before pulling my ass out of the fire. Like, that's how it feels a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And I feel like I wish I could figure out how to not have that be the experience of my life so much, even though I can't complain that I do get pulled out of the fire, but I don't like, it takes away from my own feeling of satisfaction, and it does cause a sense of frustration in me. Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's anything in this chart that over time you could help me to overcome whatever's in my way.
So I definitely think that if we were to dive a little deeper in here, we would find a lot of other things that would kind of speak to the things that you're dealing with. I think the last thing that I will leave you with is your open mind center. So if you look at the top of the chart, there are those two white triangles up by the head. So the top one is the crown, and the next one down is the ajna. All of the centers kind of correspond to the chakras, but in a kind of loose way. So the ajna, the mind center, having those centers open makes it so that you, like, that thoughts and concepts flow freely through your mind. And you often might be able to read the minds of others. You might be able to take in things from others that, that might feel, it's similar to the conditioning we were talking about with your spleen center and your will center. When you're taking in things from others, sometimes there's a lot of judgment in that space.
I completely agree. And there's even judgment about me being able to read minds, because one of the things the healer said is there's a lot of psychic ability in your line. And my grandmother was an incredible psychic. And she said there's a fear associated with it because there were a lot of people burned at the stake for that. And so, I mean, I really understand what you're saying about that, and that it is hard for me at times to not buy into some of the belief systems that are there. So I see all of it right there.
Yeah, 100%.
And that is sometimes I don't know that I can read minds, but one of my clients told me, you're like a sommelier. You hear one word or see one expression and you can tell the whole story from it. And I think he's right.
Yep. That open mind center, you can read minds. That is a thing that you can do. And it is
I can spend time and I can read minds.
You can do so much.
I'm a superhero.
Yeah. All you have to do is surrender and listen to the universe.
Yeah. Just that.
Oh man. Okay. I feel like we kind of like did a smattering, I feel. A smattering of the human design stuff. And I can put together like a little I've been toying with creating like a PDF kind of worksheet type thing for each different type. So if I figure all of that out, I can send you something like that.
Well, I would love that thing you just read about you can trust in the universe or whatever. And
Yeah,
and then let me know what you think is like if we were to work together, what is it like once a month, once a week? Like what does it look like? And would it stay the same price or
yeah, I think so for hour-long sessions, I feel like 75 is fine. And if so I work with my coach every week, but I work with most of my with my clients every other week. I usually do 90-minute sessions because I start and end with a guided meditation and my health coaching sessions are a little more, there's more like a talk therapy section. It's less informational, more kind of a back and forth. So if human design specifically is what you want to focus on, I feel like hour-long sessions are fine.
I mean, I love focusing on certain things. Like I love working with Alyssa. I love working on my business. And this to me feels like it's tied directly to my mission, you know, to better understand myself. But I don't know, is there a point at which you can have too much self-understanding and it becomes less return on investment? You know, I don't know.
I feel like if you're on the journey of self-discovery, it is a path that never actually ends. And the further you go, the more you understand yourself, the more you understand your mission, the more you can help the people. I feel like it's just a matter of continuing to move. So
yeah, I don't feel like I even need to understand more about my mission as much as how do I get my barriers out of the way. That to me feels like it would be the most helpful because I feel pretty clear about the rest of that for now anyway. So
I definitely think that diving into your open and defined centers will help. And the thing that I've been finding with my coach that has been helping is diving into those gates and having those moments of this is how this shows up for you in a high vibrational way. This is how it shows up for you in a low vibrational way. How do you know, how do you keep those things separate? How do you change that up?
Okay.
So yeah, I feel like maybe if we were just to start out with like, I don't know, maybe every other week and just do like 4 sessions or something like that. Maybe I'll type something up and send you an email about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, go ahead and do that. And I do feel unclarity about whether to go for it. And it's probably just from fear of money right now and having other decisions to make. But I really liked this session. I feel like it was very validating.
Great. I'm so glad. Yay.
Yeah. And hopefully it was a good experience for you on your maiden voyage, you know?
It was. I feel like I have an open mind center as well. And my purpose is actually I am a leader who helps hold others accountable in their own power. And there is a lot of me that learns by doing. So just being in here and knowing that I do a lot of trusting that the words that come out of my mouth are the things that people need to hear, because that is usually the way it works. And that's kind of the way that my practice works. So this all worked, and I feel like I said all the things, and I didn't plan any of this, and it all worked out the way that I wanted it to. So
that's the best way. That's how I want to do my TV show, because I'm strongest when I'm not trying to pre-script something.
Yep. Yeah. Open mind center. Yeah.
Yeah. It was great. Alyssa told me you would be so fun and delightful to meet, and she was 100% right. And I appreciate that you created enough safety with me to that I could cry in front of you. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love being that safe space. That's my MO. Thank you.
And thanks for letting me be a fly on the wall. That was wonderful. I learned so much.
Thanks for being here, Alyssa. I'm glad you're here.
Absolutely. And Judy, know that I completely trust your decision-making skills, your sacral center, and your connection to the universe. And I will not be offended if you decide that it's not the time. So
thanks. Yeah, just send it to me. I have a feeling I just have to get my manifestor manifesting
Yep.
more money. Because there's like, honest to God, if you said to me, if you had all the money in the world, would you do this? It would be like a no-brainer. Of course I would. So I'm just trying to be not impulsive. So
Get that emotional center nice and even. Get yourself into a lovely place and do that.
okay.
Awesome.
Thank you, Kayla.
Great. Thank you so much. This was so lovely. So wonderful to meet you.
Same here.
Okay.
Have a good day. Alyssa, I'll catch up with you.
Yeah.
I said I'll talk to both of you later.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.